Particularly Andrea Marquez for the invitation to come here. So the first thing I want to do is, there are two cameras, right? Hi mom, I'm at TED, I did it! Right, so now I can die happily and it doesn't really matter what I'm going to say. So, the title of my presentation is When Fun Meets Technology. So what I decided to do was to focus on fun and forget about technology. So it just seemed right. So this is what I'm going to do. So while I was researching for this presentation, I read two books. It felt like coming back to the 20th century. Like no Googling, no internet, reading something on some strange technology called paper. It's quite odd. But I learned a few things. And I actually had an epiphany after reading those books. So I have a question for the audience. How many of you are Portuguese? Raise your hand. Almost everyone. So the question should be, how many of you are not Portuguese? All right. So I have good news for all of the Portuguese people in the room. So I have very good news for all of you Portuguese people. We will rule the world. We will take over. And as a friend of mine just told me, again, because we did it before, actually. And so, how did I came to this wonderful conclusion that actually we will rule the world? So, I started to think about all what I read on those two books. So the first book is about Tom Peters, is from Tom Peters and is reimagined. And it's about a number of generic trends in business. Probably many of you know Tom Peters, and some of you have read the book as well. And you recognize some of the things I was going to show. And actually, some of the previous speakers have mentioned it as well before. So, great products are not enough, are just the beginning. Knowledge is widely spread. There is a number of people competing for the same things. Once one product is successful, you have thousands of people replicating it, competing on the same space. So, if you go to a mobile phone shop and you want to buy a 30 euros mobile phone, you'll expect nothing less that it's going to work perfectly. That you make a call and somebody else on the other side will answer, send an SMS and so on. And so even though for very small value that you will give to a product, expectations are very high, because even though it's highly complex to route all those calls and do all those strange technology stuff, people's expectation is at that level. So if you have a great product, that's not enough. It's just the beginning of the game. Then, actually, what we said, some speakers said before, only the best in the world will survive. We are in a global market. So there's no point on us trying to be the best in this neighborhood in Lisbon or even on our country. We'll have to be the best in the world. Of course, you can say, well, not really survive. It's not a matter of you'll go bankrupt if you don't really be the best. But of course, I think we should raise our standards of survival, and being average should not be accepted. Actually, one thing Tom Peters says is that we should penalize small successes and we should celebrate great failures. Because on great failures, you really learn something. You learn something how not to do something. That's as important and sometimes more important as how to do what to do, not only what to avoid. And then from the second book on the Medici effect, which is from a Swedish friend called Frans Johansson, which probably not many of you will know, he talks about something called the intersection, which is all about combining different fields of knowledge in new and unexpected ways. And essentially, that is the key. If you want to really differentiate, it's the best way is to create a whole new field. Because for some time you'll probably be the only one, maybe just for a short time, but you'll really have an opportunity to be the best in the world by creating your own market. So I'll elaborate a little bit more on this thing and have two examples for you. One of them is Michael Field. probably some of you would know. What Michael Field did back in the 80s, I believe, was to combine rock kind of instruments with classical music kind of composition. And he created a whole new genre on music, and that was the only one for a while. And actually, Richard Branson, which probably all of you would know, was the one that believed in Michael Field, and he took advantage of that. Virgin Records actually started off as a sponsor, and with Michael Field's success in this way. And so this is an example. Another one is Magic the Gathering. If you are fond into games, if you have kids, or if you have your little kid inside, you haven't died yet, you probably know this. And this is a joint between a collectible item, so you're buying stuff, you're having new cards, sometimes you have repeated cards, you're able to trade them, and the usual collectible thing, as well as you can play. Championships, world championships, you have 40-year-old people facing 30-year-olds and losing, and you have all sorts of interesting things about this. And the thing is, by joining these two things, you can change the rules of the game all the time. You create an everlasting dynamics that if you just have either a game, some specific game dynamic, or if you just have a different collectible offer, you would never get. And again, these guys in England created a whole new market and were the best, in my view, are still the best in this specific kind of offer. So again, why would Portuguese take over? Where the Portuguese come into the equation? So when I started to think about this, I thought, what are we, except for the few non-Portuguese on the room? What is our distinct feature? When you think of a Portuguese, what do you think about? So I started to think about other cultures. Let's take Germans, for example. You can think of Paulo Schiffer, but that should be just me. But you can think reliable engineering. If you think of a German car, if you think of aircraft, if you think of railways and all those things, German things tend to work, which is nice. You can think also of structure in terms of SAP is the ultimate structure software piece. It's like try to organize your company or go bankrupt trying. Because if it's really a large company, if it's done in the proper way, okay, you can have some benefits. If it's a small company, then you should think about that for 1,000 times or something. And so, if I think on German's distinct features, I'll go for organization. Then I thought about Italians. And this bed, this is an illuminated bed. It's a great piece of design. I love it. I would never sleep on it. Maybe I would offer it to somebody I don't like. Because when I want to sleep, I want it to be dark. I don't want it to be light. So, actually this is very beautiful, but its usefulness is questionable at best. Then if you think on Italian cars, of course they're beautiful as well. And if you have an Alfa Romeo, most likely you have the most beautiful car broke on the sideway. But anyway, you should be happy nonetheless. And so, if I would vote on what is Italian people distinct feature, I would call for passion. And so, what about Portuguese? I think we are relaxed. So we're doomed. Run for your lives. You are all doomed. So maybe we should buy a distinct feature for somebody, from Americans or Chinese or something like that. I don't think so. I think it's a great opportunity because we have just the right level of relaxation. We are more open to accept differences in a way that we don't try to force our way while working on a team. If a German person will be leading a team, he will try to force structure and organization on everyone. He'll try to put Italians into order, good luck for that. He'll try to put Portuguese and the Spanish, whatever, their own countrymen, into order. And that's great. The thing is, while he's doing that, he's cutting himself and his team outside of the intersection. He will only incrementally add something to a specific level of knowledge. And so that is clearly people that I don't think will ever be very successful on this intersection thing. Italians could be also an example. They'll try to disorganize everyone, which will probably succeed on. But then the end result most likely will not be a great design piece with lots of passion. Anyhow, a couple of other things to add to this. And it was again mentioned in earlier, from earlier speakers. Portuguese people tend to do best outside of Portugal. We all have stories of emigrants on all levels, even cleaning ladies to high-level executives on all sorts of fields and businesses and countries, doing really well, being the best in some of their fields. Because I think that there's something in us that brings the best that we have as a people while we are outside. There's a number of things you feel alone, so you really have to prove yourself to be accepted and well integrated in the community. That could be a number of things, but clearly there are, and I believe most of you would agree with me, that there is something that takes people to excel when they go out of Portugal and go somewhere else. And then we have a wild card. We have desenrascanço. The best definition in English I got for this was to pulling a MacGyver. and this is actually, to me, this is our best candidate as Portuguese people distinct feature. It can be quite valuable. There was a say on the Middle Ages that it was a good omen to have someone Portuguese on a ship. Because if you're out there on the ocean, something goes wrong, you don't have the ability to just quickly go to shore and get a new sail or get more wood or do whatever you would do on a normal situation. You would need somebody that would think out of the box. And therefore, this is something that, while properly used, can be really helpful and can even foster all this different culture and ideas gathering and put them together in the right way. So, how do we work all this together? How do we combine that the only way for you to differentiate is to combine different fields in new and unexpected ways? How do we make this thing of the Portuguese people doing better outside of our country? How do we work all this desenrascanço thing and the way we accept differences? So, this is how I think why. I think we should stop thinking about Portugal as a territory and think about it as a brand. Because in my view, if we think as a territory, we tend, and this is historical, maybe this would be a tactical, temporary thing and then we'll move on, but we tend to think smallish. In Portuguese, pequenismo. We tend to be the little people. Oh, right, this is a small country, small market. We'll never make it. We'll never reach the global market. So if we stop thinking on territory on land, come on, this is the 21st century. We have fiber optics and internet and Cristiano Ronaldo and all those things. So why not? We can do it. And this would be the first thing. And then we should, instead of there was a number of people trying to find ways to attract talent back to Portugal, I think we should export talent. And I think that while doing this, we will be creating more awareness on the Portuguese and Portugal as a brand outside. And this is how I think we will create new and extraordinary products. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
I was trying to recover time from the previous speaker.
Okay.